When I received the invite to speak here today, I was scared, absolutely terrified. And all day, all week, all I could ask myself was, what on earth have I gotten myself into? Is it too late to back out of this? What on earth am I going to talk about? What do I have to share? Because you see, while I do write, I do not call myself a writer. And though I compose poetry sometimes, I've never seen myself as a poet. So what qualifies me to stand here today to speak? As the days went by, though, I realized that this very moment, my standing on stage here to discuss with you wonderful bunch, my very act of accepting that invite, is for me all part of my journey of self-discovery. I'm discovering, for example, that I can actually speak with thousands of people. Perhaps I'm not such a nervous wreck after all. And importantly, I can share because I have something to say. And so in reflecting on my journey so far, I came across some really interesting things. The first being that I almost always start out my journey by being hard on myself, by pushing myself. Which is not such a bad thing, because when we consider it, the very concept of birth itself is such that even as the mother pushes, the baby has to accept some responsibility for pushing itself out of the birth canal. The baby pushes to discover. And so from the very start, we are wired to push, to discover. At the early stages, though, a lot of the pushing we do are externally motivated. We are pushed along by family members. We are pushed along by friends, by teachers, by loved ones who tell us we can, who realize our potential even before we see it ourselves. Eventually, it becomes, to use a popular Nigerian saying, it becomes every man for himself. And I see myself pushing to be my best in school, pushing to distinguish myself at work, pushing to be the very best that I can be for myself. The idea then is that I aim to get some sense of fulfillment, some sense of satisfaction, some sense of achievement with all this pushing. My push to this stage came in form of my friend. Her name is Patty. She was my external push. Because you see, I'd always watched TED videos and admired the speakers. And even as they spoke sometimes, went, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I was thinking. Oh my goodness, this is what I share with friends, albeit in a different manner. But oh my goodness. And so one of the things on my bucket list, things to do before I die, was to visit a TED Global Conference. I had never dreamt of dreaming to aspire to stand here to share at a TEDx conference. And so when TEDx came to Lancaster, I told my friends, I must be there. I'll be the first person to get a ticket, and I'll be seated there to listen to this, because this is like a fraction of my dream come true. Patty pushed me, though, and said, Doyin, you can put yourself forward for this. Go for it. You share with us already. You share through your writings. Why don't you share to a larger audience? In being hard on self and pushing self, I have discovered things. I have discovered the power of inner grit, tenacity, that will to keep pushing even when all seems to be falling apart. I discover my limits or lack of it. Those hard parts of self I wouldn't have learned any other way. Another way by which I go about my discovery journey is by being easy on myself and telling myself to breathe. Because even for that baby that pushed itself out, for it to live to discover the world, it has to learn to breathe and also learn to catch its breath. And so in reflecting, how about I view my efforts and accomplishments with some sense of pride? How about I look back at those times where I rose up to situations I didn't think I could handle, but I went on to do it anyway? How about I judge myself a little less harshly and tell myself it's okay to fail? It's okay to take time. It's okay to learn as I go along. It's okay if I don't get it right the first time. It's okay to fail. With this, I discover things like patience, I learned to accept myself. I learned that it does take time sometimes. I learned to embrace myself and own up to my core. For me, learning to breathe and learning to be easy on myself is really important because I see that many times I get caught up in that pushing frenzy. But it's okay to take some time to breathe. I also see that every time I open myself up and become vulnerable, there is something I discover about myself. And it could be opening myself up to new opportunities, to meeting new people, to going new places, to experiencing a different culture, to trying new food, to striking up a new conversation with someone I even already know. There is always something to be learned. To emotions, it's telling myself it's okay to feel, it's okay to embrace those emotions, which hitherto I may have thought were for the weak. It's okay to feel, it's okay to be scared and want to run away from situations shaking in my boot, but not let myself get overcome by that. It's telling myself it's okay to love, it's okay if I fall deeply, madly, crazily in love with someone, but telling myself not to lose myself in the loving process. To new opportunities, it's saying yes before I know how. It's saying I can and then dashing off to find out how. It's accepting that TEDx invite to speak even before I had the slightest idea what I was going to say. It's seizing those opportunities that come my way and then slip past. Even though deep down I know that I would love to explore those opportunities, but because of that not so silent voice of fear and doom that haunts all of us, I let it go. To new people, it's saying hello. It's striking up new conversations and seeking to understand what shapes the viewpoints of others. Why do they think like that? What are the ties that bind? What are the things we have in common? In what ways do we differ? Through all this, we could learn to discover life and, in fact, self through fresher, better magnified, exposed eyes. I think for me, my greatest discovery of self so far has been, and it may very well continue to be, accepting that I cannot fit into the reality of everyone. It's accepting that for the most part of my life, I haven't. It's accepting that my childhood was such a quiet one, because many of the things that interested others didn't interest me, and many of the discussions I wanted to have, I couldn't have it because they weren't right by society. My viewpoints on things like marriage, on things like religion, on things like what we considered to be good, I couldn't have them. I couldn't ask questions such as, why do you say this person is a good person? What convinces us so much that our religion is the right one when every other person has that same view that their religion is the right one and the only one? What right have we to concern ourselves with what goes on in the bedrooms of others? Why is the sexuality of others such an issue for us? Those conversations I couldn't strike up with teachers or at school. It wasn't seen as right or normal. But it's accepting that. It's accepting that many of the time there are no true answers. It's realizing that there are only a few times when black is black and white is white. That sometimes black is tan and white is cream. But for the most part, there are 50 absolutely different shades of gray between black and white. It's realizing that, but aiming day by day by day to own up to and live in my own truth. It's also discovering that this discovery of self is actually a journey that never really ends. And every single day, with every new person we meet, with every new conversation we strike up, with every place we go, with every culture we experience, we will always, always discover something about self. So what would you discover about yourself today? Thank you.